Pleasure to be part of the 48th ICTMD World Conference, Wellington, New Zealand. The panel Rhythms of Belonging in Lusophone World with Susan Harley-Glowa, Martin Ringsmund, Stephanie Alish, and me, Alcide Lopes. We thank the chairperson, Wilson Tramura, for the opportunity to share this moment. So, our panel is today, January 13, 2025, and my paper is the number 4, Txôru, Résa, Trabadju, Festa, Cosmopolitics of Musicking across the Atlantic. I am Alcide Lopes, and I am an assistant professor at the University Federal of Vale São Francisco, Brazil. In Cabo Verde Islands, traditional festivities known as Tabanca, Santiago, or Kolá, Santo Antão, are defined as a brotherhood, a sisterhood, or even a confraternity that supports the fostering of mutual aid among its members through happy and sad moments of life. Conceived as a territory-based organization, the relational conception of these institutions requires processes of mobility which are essential to their survival as they regulate the most important aspects in the lives of their members and communities. They establish prescribed forms of behavior on important occasions of social life. Therefore, these institutions coordinate a substantial part of agricultural work, the collective activities for cleaning the fields, juntament, based on solidarity and reciprocity among their members. But most importantly, they provide original forms of sociability and conviviality for social groups who do not have access to the modes in use by local elites. In other words, through this organization, one learns to mourn, pray, work, celebrate, and live in community. On the other side of the Atlantic, in the semi-arid region of the Piauí state, Brazil, the Caatinga holds the fourth major Quilombola territory of the country. The socio-productive organization, through Território Quilombo Lagoas, for instance, converges to a broad measure of reciprocity that has guaranteed for centuries the reproduction of structures of confluences, which are characteristic to Afro-Brazilian populations. This work proposes a debate on the cosmopolitics of musicking reverberated in all dimensions of Quilombola tradition and how they echo with Tabanca and Kolá institution through resonances and discontinuities perceived during fieldworks activities. I argue that these cultural manifestations are oriented by holistic perspectives, relational guided diversity conscious and equally friendly that provide structures of belonging and celebrate hospitality through transnational frequencies and rhythms of belonging. On present times, much of what has been described and categorized as traditional and popular festivities has gone under dramatic transformations due to a variety of socio-technological aspects, political and economic factors in countries such as Cabo Verde and in regions as the northeast of Brazil, especially in the inner backlands, Caatinga. The municipalization of cultural and religious events has become explicitly alienating and disruptive in certain cases. Since the 1990s, the culture of summer music festivals, some of which are confluent to Catholic Saint festivities, have emerged and spread through the archipelago of Cabo Verdean municipalities. The Bahia das Gatas International Music Festival, for instance, was first organized in August 1984, according to Vlu, Valdemiro Ferreira. It was an attempt to bring the Galeria Njunga to Bahia das Gatas, and that was a project of intellectual struggle with a cultural, political, and philosophical character, which above all aimed to create space in the minds of politicians for the freedom and creative intelligence of new musicians of Cabo Verde, to create the only great free musical festival of that time, and to provide an atmosphere of social conviviality without the shadow of everything that was controlled and official. In its latest edition, in celebration of the festival's 40th anniversary, the international Brazilian singer Ivete Sangalo, dressed up in Cabo Verdean flag colors body glove model, literally levantou poeira, kicked up the dust during the stunning performance and dazzling response of the public, after which followed a heavy rain that caused to postpone some following shows. Nowadays, apart from Bahia das Gatas, there are plenty of festivals all over Cabo Verde municipalities, those carried in Boa Vista and Sal and Praia, Tarrafal, Santa Catarina, municipalities in Santiago as well, tend to be more and more competitive. Nonetheless, there are other kind of celebrations other than music festivals and carnivals. There are popular scent celebrations from May to June, such as the Tabanca, in Santiago and Mai, the Bandeira de Fogo as well, the Kolá São João in Porto Novo, Santo Antão, São Nicolau and São Vicente Islands. Popular Catholic saints festivities have been common ground amid societies with European colonial history and religious heritage. The first church built at Vila Ribeira Grande in Santiago dates from 1490, the Nossa Senhora do Rosários. Ruins of the old Cathedral of Santiago in Cidade Velha, 1556-1700, open to visitors, display some tombstones where once the interior of the church was. Curiously, one of them caught my eye as it reads, the grave of Colonel Manuel Dias de Moura, who died on 20 October 1818, and of his wife, Dona Josefa Carvalho Alvarenga, who, having been buried here, is never again opened for others to lie together until the last day. During my last trip to Santiago, last December 2024, I had the opportunity to visit other spots with old tombs and chapel, such as the Francisciosa tomb at Ribeira da Trindade, now in private property. From December 1 to 15, I had been formally invited by the Câmara Municipal Prior President, Francisco Carvalho, to carry on a brief ethnography with some Tabanca leaders and members to present a proposal report for the safeguarding of this cultural manifestation as intangible cultural heritage. The invitation came as a terrific opportunity to probe on some questions relating the theme of this essay, also in attention to ongoing projects with IFAM Brazil and the good relationship with Mestre Arnaldo Costaneira, Arnaldo Lima, 48 years old. I extended him the official invitation to travel to Cabo Verde. Mestre Arnaldo is widely recognized by Quilombola communities and civil institutions as a singing knowledge master, Mestre dos Saberes Cantados, just as the belated Antonio Nego Bispo, 1959-2023, a contemporary Quilombola philosopher, would state. Hence, the communication aims to provoke a debate on the cosmopolitics of musicking, reverberated in all dimensions of Quilombola traditions, and how they echo with Tabanca and Kolá São João institutions through resonances and discontinuities perceived during fieldwork activities. So, by that, I need to talk about peculiar institution, as it has been demonstrated in the title of this paper. There are several dimensions to the aspects of these peculiar institutions found in the Creole society of Cabo Verde, as well as in the northeast of Brazil, more specifically the semi-arid region of the Piauí state, where the Caatinga holds the fourth major Quilombola territory of the country. The semi-arid region of Piauí covers the eastern and southeastern portions of the state, an area of 200,610 square kilometers, inhabited by 3 million people spread over 185 municipalities. This region of the Caatinga, which in relation to other states in the northeast is known as Sertão de Dentro, is a culturally diverse region, but historically marked by precarious socio-economic structures compared to the more dynamic areas of the country. So when I compare some of cultural aspects of the Cabo Verdean Criollo society with the Sertão de Dentro in Piauí, it is possible to say that we inherited the same colonial historical and customs. We have the same corn, beans and pork chops based meal, but we give it different names. Cachupa in Cabo Verde, Pintado at the Quilombo Lagoas, territory in Piauí. Our peoples both endure the lack of drinking water situation, long seasons of dryness, unemployment, lack of schools, poverty, labor immigration, and consequently the protagonism of women, associativism, and caring practices. It is important to note that even though we have highlighted some aspects in common, geographically there are deep incompatibilities, since Cabo Verde archipelago lays in an aqueous territory and the Caatinga goes deep, 1,000 kilometers into the mainland. Nonetheless, it is auspicious to accept the great possibility that the very peculiar institution from Cabo Verde Criollo society, pointed out by Trajano Filho by the name of Tabanca, may be found with different names but with characteristics alike at the backlands of Piauí state, most certainly at the Quilombo Costaneira do Paquetá. For instance, what in Tabanca is known as Txôru, mourning, is called Excelência. Résa, praying, is known as Benditos, carried out during the novenas and trezenas. Trabadju, work, generally socially lived as juntamon, is best known as mutirão. and Festa, celebrations displayed during the religious calendar through festive events and corteges called leseiras, are dedicated to a variety of saints. In this case, we refer to the Quilombo as a territory-based organization constructed mainly on parenthood, ancestral relationships and feelings of belonging, that works as a brotherhood or sisterhood whose aims are to encourage mutual aid among its members in crisis situations such as death, illness, and weeding the field, as well as devotion to popular Catholic saints, Saint Anthony, Saint John, Saint Peter, and Holy Cross, among others, and also to provide its members means for sociability and conviviality. During our last trip to Cabo Verde, me and Meshnad were invited to attend Mass and follow the Sang procession of Our Lady Immaculate and the Conception at the Achadinha neighborhood in the capital city of Praia on the evening December 7. The next day, Sunday 8, Lisandra, our fieldwork collaborator, invited us to meet the Eurochapa project and the woman behind it, Jerusa, a beautiful and kind black woman on her 30s. She inherited the project from her late mother, she said. Right across from the restaurant, there was a group of women in a yard working on a kind of cornmeal porridge. They were rolling it between hands to make small poles, massinha, which they would throw into one of the large pots on a wooden fire. The pots were cooking cow meat stew, green beans such as bongolon, feijão pedra, and congo, fava with pork or goat chops, potatoes, and veggies. After our lunch at Jerusa's, she took us on a trip into the neighborhood. In each corner, we would find a similar group of women, sometimes with men around, cooking meals on similar large pots made from draught beer kegs cut on top. People would insistently invite us into their houses to have a meal and drink soda, beer, whiskey, or grog, and sometimes a black coffee. The impact of Mestre Naldo was such that he decided to video call his wife on WhatsApp, and he was even more happy because his mother, Dona Rita, was with Cheise at that moment, so she could share the moment with us. As we would go through alleys and corners, from backyards to front yard and inside someone's kitchen and dining room, in between hugs and handshakes, Mestre Naldo would look me into the eyes and state, "This is Quilombo, Chida. This." When walking the streets of Achada Santo Antonio, it is common to spot the habitantes, women, usually sole mothers, who trade goods of any kind. The way they dress themselves on a daily basis caught the attention of Mestre Naldo, because in Piauí, people only dress like that when they go to a terreiro drum session. They wear long skirts, sometimes more than one, aprons and cloths tied around their waists, scarves tied around their heads, and occasionally some older women smoke on pipes or chew tobacco. The rabidante, technically speaking, is one of the most efficient salesperson in our economic system. First, she has the most confident and kind eye contact. Her voice is usually nice and comprehensive. She demonstrates interest in her client's satisfaction and always offers a discount if one insists. Unless you are dishonest, you will not experience the fury of a rabidante. I mentioned this to Mestre Naldo, and he confirmed that even the lace works on their aprons in Costaneira are used with specific ritual meaning of tereco. In Cabo Verde, the rabidantes adorn their aprons with made China laces and wear them while working in a daily basis. Resonances, discontinued continuities, echoes between the margins are concepts that require interdisciplinarity approaches from researchers who have set new conceptual uses such as cosmopolitics. Our use of this word is consonant to Isabel Stenger's attempt to politicize scientific practice from within. We are interested in understanding the necessary relationships between an internal holistic perspective and an external one, so we can show how making art, producing culture, has to do with the betterment of words. I have been experiencing this feeling of familiarity for almost 3 years now, since I contacted Quilombola communities in the backlands of Piauí. I confess I had felt the same way back in 2018 while conducting fieldwork in Lisbon. Every morning, as I got off the train and walked towards Rua Principal at Cova da Moura, This wave of familiarity through smells, rhythms, talking, and looks would flood my sense and spirit during the first 15 days of December 2024. According to his testimony, Mestre Naldo also experienced strong feelings of familiarity while traveling and meeting the people from Santiago Islands. The term Cosmopolitics, combined with Christopher Small's concept of musicking, draws from distinct aspects of theory related to music in relation to the culture in which it is embedded. It also depends on the linguistic dimension of musical discourse, as well as on other modalities of consciousness important to musical knowledge, such as the nature of verbal representations and the role metaphors play during action of musicking. Finally, considering that we are living in a world whose cosmopolitan condition is increasingly inevitable, it aims to assess the imperial necessity of constructing a common world and accepts the inevitable character of our cosmopolitan condition, as well as the irreversible fact of transnational mobilities. In this context, the tabancas, the Kolá, the sambas, and batuques are understood as sites of relational dimensions where moments of ambiguity, transition, and change occur during the mundane encounters between natives, migrants, students, and tourists. Such a framework is better understood through a moment-to-moment subjective experiences as a major musical encounter unfolds, an environment of reconfigured conventions of social relations, and the apprehension of tension between certain categories and living realities of individuals from diverse sociocultural and linguistic backgrounds. Following Christopher Small, 1998, the nature and the meaning of music is not in the objects, not even in the music words, but in action, in what people do. Therefore, it is only in the act of comprehending what people do when they are part of a musical art that we can understand the nature and function music fulfills in human life. Hence, the poetry sung in African and diasporic music, for instance, is expressed through the creative uses of metaphor, accent, understatement, sometimes malicious, playful, sensual, or even alerting. The aspects convey a message through which discursive practice are built by feeding on improvising performative resources and gesture. Nonetheless, it is auspicious to realize emerging theoretical problems from the way one understands and represents the potential for effective complexity in music making, such as the emotional contours experienced by individual and emotional texture displayed by heterogeneous communities. For there is a fundamental problem in the potential representation of musical meaning in a cultural totality that may be understood as a unified whole in some respects and not in others. Therefore, I must consider the fact that cultural categories are themselves problematic, since there is a fragile intersection of genders as they are lived and ideally represented. From this perspective, apart from the fact that while interacting with Quilombola communities, I had the opportunity to learn about the peculiarity of certain codes of behavior practiced amongst the leaders, researchers, artists, and common people who are regulars to their territory, it was interesting to experience situations like a Semelian sociological structure that appears to draw its form from different realities but nonetheless leaves some features behind. Following Georg Zimmel's approach on the sociology of sociability, innumerable forms of social life initiate associations with one another, for one another, in one another, against one another, and through one another, according to different social atmospheres. All these associations are accompanied by a feeling for, by a satisfaction in, the very fact that one is associated with others, and that solitariness of the individual is revolved into togetherness, a union with others. Indeed, when light is shed on the mundane encounters promoted between natives and visitors, for instance, the hospitality impulse is perceived as a free-playing associative process related to the concreteness of association as art is related to reality. Hence, despite the Quilombola sharing of a common net or mesh of contacts and influences which are decisive to their activities while interacting with students and tourists, the personal traits of amiability, cordiality, and attractiveness of all kinds determine the character of purely sociable association. We arrived at a reference point on the side of the road along the stream that we had walked along with the artist and researcher Gil Moreira. We then came across a dirt road that climbed the hillside, still green from the recent rains. As we walked towards the little white chapel along the small road, a group of women, from children aged 6 to 8 years old to octogenarian ladies, came out to meet us, singing and clapping to the rhythm of Batuco Mocinhos de Interior. The welcoming was cheerful and warm. After the presentations, we went to the courtyard of the small chapel in the rural town of Matinhos. There, the batucadeiros sat in a circle, while the soloist, the dancer, and the mestre Gil stood. The observation of the batuco performance allows us to identify three essential components. The sound component, sometimes referred to in Creole as sound, which includes the rhythmic accompaniment and the melodic dimension sound, boca, a choreographic component, the dance known as da Txôru, and the poetic literary component called cantiga. As we sat together in a big round in the courtyard, the batucadeiros announced the rhythm, percussive claps, and sometimes in alternance with the chabeta, a batuque instrument, highlighting the polyrhythmic result of overlapping binary and ternary cells in repetitive cycles. With different metrics, as has been stated before by Anku, the emergent rhythm can be defined as a random aesthetic selection from the continuum of peaks of prominence of integrated sound patterns. Soon after the irregularity of the rhythmic pattern played by the batucadeiros has stabilized, in other words, the resulting rhythm, defined from an integration conceived monolithically, the integration of a binary balance with a ternary balance, it can be seen that the intrinsic perception of temporal synchrony between the performers is largely related to their awareness and expectations of the emerging and resulting rhythms. Thank you very much.